Welcome to the Luke Macias Show, guys. We have a lot going on this week. I am sitting in the Tarrant County Republican Party of Texas headquarters. I'm going to have a conversation with Beau French in just a little bit, who is the chairman of the GOP here. And Tarrant County is the largest red county in America. But it is a county that Ted Cruz lost in 2018 and Donald Trump lost in 2020 for re-election. So we're going to have a conversation about the importance of Republicans being active and working very, very hard to try to keep some suburban centers in our state. I want to start with talking about Ted Cruz's latest TV ad. He actually just released a TV ad cut by Democrat, that's right, you heard me, Democrat District Attorney Kim Ogg. She's the sitting district attorney of the largest county in Texas. And here's what she had to say. Let's go to the ad.
I'm District Attorney Kim Ogg. I'm an elected Democrat and the top law enforcement official in Harris County. I'm supporting Ted Cruz because Democrats and Republicans must work together to solve Texans' problems now. Our safety is on the line in Texas. Ted introduced legislation that would keep violent illegal aliens behind bars until trial. I'm voting for Ted Cruz because he's working to keep Texans safe.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
Kim is being replaced by a straight-up leftist Marxist who was funded by George Soros and a bunch of other leftists who want to have rogue district attorneys in every single one of these urban areas in Texas who are just not prosecuting crime. They figured out that if they can elect leftist Marxists to the district attorney offices, they can simply stop enforcing the laws on the books. Because you can write a law that something is illegal, but if the district attorney won't actually step up and say, we're going to make sure that people are prosecuted for committing that crime, then essentially you have nullified the law. And the left has been very smart about going into these large counties and being able to elect district attorneys who do just that. Kim Ogg has been the exception to the rule as a Democrat district attorney in Texas of the largest county. Harris County is larger than a lot of states east of the Mississippi. It's a massive, massive county that she oversees. And she's been I would just say standard prosecutor. I wouldn't even call her like a tough on crime, lock them all up, throw them all in the jail. That's not what she's doing. She's simply saying, I'm here to prosecute criminals. These people commit crimes and we prosecute them. And that was not to be tolerated by the leftists in the Democrat Party. And that maybe just is a continual reminder to everyone that in Texas, the Democrats we have in this state are not reasonable, and the reasonable ones are kicked out of the party. Kim Ogg was kicked out of her own party simply for prosecuting criminals. Sean Theory, who joined the Republican caucus last week, she's in a district that's over 70% Democrat. She joined the Republican caucus because she was kicked out of her own party simply for saying pornography should not be in school libraries and children should not have sex change surgeries, period. Now, the reality is that Sean Theory is still pro-choice. Sean Theory is still for higher taxes. Sean Theory is still for gun control. She has a voting record on all of those issues. She's 100% rated by Planned Parenthood. She's an F by the NRA. She's not a diehard conservative. The only thing she disagreed with her own party on was whether kids could have genital mutilation surgery before 18 while they're kids, and whether pornography should be in school libraries. And they kicked her out of the party for it. Here's what's crazy, though. Even with that being today's Democrat Party, there are still RINOs coming out to support Collin Allred. Now, this should be a wake-up call for each and every one of you. So earlier this week, Bennett Ratliff, Jason Villalba, and Glenn Whitley, the former Tarrant County judge, all endorsed Collin Allred. Now, when I came into politics predominantly, or more, I don't even say prominently, but when I got more engaged in the Texas political process, Glenn Whitley was the Republican county judge. He's appointed by Governor Abbott to be a regent at the University of North Texas. He's been a decades-long serving Republican official in Tarrant County. And at the time, Republicans in Tarrant County would complain that Glenn Whitley was constantly acting like a Democrat. And people like me were often told, oh, you just need to be more reasonable, Luke. Luke, we're a big tent. Stop kicking these people out. And here's the reality. I actually do agree that we're a big tent. I agree that we have moderate Republicans and really conservative Republicans. I agree that we can even have Sean Theory as a Republican if she wants to be a Republican. Doesn't mean I agree with her on any of those other issues she stands for. Doesn't mean I want her perspective on those to be predominant in the party. But we have a big tent. Glenn Whitley's not in that tent. Matt Rinaldi ran against and defeated Bennett Ratliff. We ran against Jason Villalba and defeated him in his primary. And everybody would say, oh, y'all are kicking out all the more reasonable Republicans. They're not reasonable Republicans. And here's how we can now just get over with that debate. I'm going to give you the reason that that debate is over today. And these guys are all endorsing Collin Allred, who is a radical leftist Democrat. He is not a reasonable Democrat by any stretch of the imagination. He's not Sean Theory. He's not Kim Ogg. He's not somebody who shoots it down the middle. This guy is a radical leftist who is the standard bearer for the Democrat Party, who's literally kicking people out, even if they just believe in prosecuting criminals as a prosecutor. And in the middle of that kind of shift happening in the Democrat Party, these guys are embracing Collin Allred. So let me be clear. When we call Bennett Ratliff and Jason Villalba and Glenn Whitley a RINO, a Republican in name only, you know what we mean? They are Republicans in name only. And this week, one of the things that at least brought a little bit of comfort to me is that all the people who have attempted to gaslight conservatives for the last decade and tell us, no, really, Bennett Ratliff is a reasonable, responsible Republican, now have a really hard time looking back and going, actually, they're Democrats. They were hiding all along, and now we know they're full-blown, full-fledged leftists. Thank God that some people like Sean Theory and Kim Ogg and others are coming out on the right side of this battle. I appreciate people like them who can see the broader picture of where we're going and say Republicans need to lead Texas. But Ted Cruz is in a very serious race. He's in a very serious race. Now, I think that ultimately we have a lot in Texas that means our state is still fundamentally red. And I don't think that is changing. And I've even argued on this show that Texas is getting a little more red as time goes on. But I will tell you that the reality is that suburban areas in Texas, and that's going to lead to my conversation with Beau French, are still at risk. And if Republicans don't wake up, who are in Collin County and Denton County and Tarrant County, in Montgomery County and Fort Bend County and Williamson County outside of Austin, and realize that those counties are at play and must be fought for, if they don't make sure to turn every single one of their friends out to vote, that's going to be a problem. If the rural areas don't actually show up like they've shown up in the past, that's going to be a problem. Democrats are spending massive amounts of money. Collin Allred is outspending Ted Cruz 2-1 on television. That's pretty substantial. That matters. That has impact over time. So I don't say that as some type of doomsday prediction. I'm just telling you that there's a reason that so much money is flowing into Texas. It's because they see a chance to help start to turn Texas just ever so slightly to the left. And we fight really hard across the state during the primary process to make sure the right kind of Republicans are elected. And it's not Glenn Whitley and Bennett Ratliff and Jason Villalba Republicans, but we also need to make sure we fight to make sure that those same Republicans actually win in November. We have a real battle on our hands. And with that, let's go to the conversation with Chairman Beau French.
For years, the Chinese Communist government has been buying up land all over the United States. What's worse, the land they're buying is within a disturbingly short distance from our military bases. In this coming season of Exposed, we dive into why our power grid continues to fail, who and what is behind those failures, and how the monster of the Chinese Communist government is behind it. Exposed, Lights Out, a new series by Texas Scorecard. Out now wherever you listen to podcasts.
Beau, thanks for joining me today.
Luke, pleasure to be here.
We have been arm in arm in politics ever since you jumped in. And
10 years.
Yeah, over a decade. So to give people the very quick recap, you have had a successful business career. You ran for the legislature against a more entrenched liberal Republican incumbent twice. And that was back when I was running campaigns. So I was working on your campaign and working with you in those endeavors. And then you've been in and involved around the conservative movement in Texas, I would say, for that entire decade. Some candidates run, and then when they lose, they just go away. And or they go, okay, well, I'll come back in if I'm going to run for something. But you're somebody who I think more candidates should model themselves after, meaning that even when you lost, you stayed involved, you helped organizations, you organized people, you hosted events at your house, you just were involved in the process, trying to move Texas to the right, trying to help Tarrant County be red. And then you were convinced to jump into this Tarrant County GOP chair position and have taken the reins over. So I told everybody at the start, this is the largest red county in America. There's literally been articles written about Tarrant County, how it stands out. But Ted Cruz lost this election, Tarrant County in 2018. Donald Trump lost Tarrant County in 2020. It is a county that still has more Republicans than Democrats, but goes kind of back and forth a little bit. So when you decide to run for Tarrant County Republican Party chair, tell me about what you've done since getting elected and what your view on Tarrant County as a whole looks like.
Yeah, well, let me just back up a little bit. I mean, I think the best thing that ever happened to me was not winning the race for the state legislature. It really exposed me to the conservative movement here in Texas, and I've met so many great patriots, and it just really gave me a desire to want to help save Texas. Mm-hmm. And so that led me then to this position I'm in now. So since I've been elected, one of the things I campaigned on was I'm going to raise money for the party in a way we haven't done before. We're going to deploy money in a way we haven't done before because I really see the need for saving Tarrant County. My belief is that we have more Republicans here in Tarrant County than Democrats, but because we've been the largest red county for so long, I think there's just a lot of complacency. I know I was that way. Mm-hmm. And we're safely Republican, but we're not. Yeah. And because the Democrats are very activated and they see Tarrant County as a place that they can flip. And if they're successful flipping Tarrant County, it really has a domino effect for the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if we lose Texas, then there's no pathway for a Republican to ever win the presidency again. Mm-hmm. So I really see this as being the front line in the battle to save Texas. And so we have raised, I'm going to put together a big budget for what I wanted to do and treat Tarrant County kind of as its own campaign on behalf of every Republican on the ballot, including the guy that I ran against, all those years ago, who is a good friend of mine. I love him. And so, we're really just working hard. We've deployed block walkers all over the county. We've got a mail program, a digital ad program, text program, signs, all the normal, like everything you would do in a campaign, we are doing here in Tarrant County on behalf of every single Republican on the ballot.
So you pointed this out, but if Tarrant County flips, that is like the starting process. If you were in any type of strategy room in the Democrat Party and you said, we want to move Texas blue over the next 10 years, it would start with Tarrant County. Right. So they would say, we got to win that before we can get to other people. One thing I think people don't also consider is the fact that Republicans can have control of a lot of small counties, and that's great. But the reality is that when those counties then enact certain policies, it really doesn't get talked about, right? So if you're some small county, I'm not going to talk derogatorily about any particular county, but if you're one of those counties in East or West Texas or Central Texas, even a mid-sized county, and your county cuts property taxes, or your county has public safety policies that are, remarkable and should be getting attention, it's not being talked about. But when Tarrant County does things, it actually gets into the news. It gets statewide attention. It gets a lot of actually attention amongst the media. And so Republicans losing strongholds like that really do, yet again, take us out of a really key conversation component in part of the lives of the majority of our population. All of Texas's growth over the next 10 years is going to be significant suburban growth. I mean, it's not like it's not like the rural areas are just blowing up and the urban areas are really not growing substantially just because of the crime issues and the Democrat policies there. So where you're seeing the vast majority of growth as our state really expands is in these suburban areas. So as a county party, I know that you've raised more money than I think the Tarrant GOP has ever had. And I mean, we're here in your office and you've got volunteers outside stuffing envelopes and putting signs together and making calls and organizing people to get out and block walk and do all these things around the county. What has the process been like stepping in to try to run a more full-fledged campaign operation of a party, which is not typical for county level parties?
Well, just touching on what you said a minute ago, Tarrant County is about 2.5 million people. It's the same size as Dallas County. We're part of a metroplex that's 8.5 million people. I mean, so you're right. This area is growing. It's unprecedented growth. So clearly the Democrats are focused here. Tarrant County is so large that, in fact, today we're opening this week we're opening a satellite office. So we're going to have 2 locations for the Tarrant County GOP because we have so many volunteers in a kind of another part of the county where I'm right here next to downtown. Yep. But kind of northeast Tarrant County, we have a lot of strong Republicans up there who want to volunteer. So they're up there in our new campaign office, working on behalf of what we're doing here. But really, it's just a campaign. I have some experience running campaigns, and so the important things in a campaign are knocking on doors, making phone calls, contacting voters, really understanding what the issues are, polling, really getting to know like what is going to help motivate our people to get to the polls for November, and that's what we've been focused on.
Republicans are seeing making record inroads into poorer communities, working class communities, Hispanic communities. But one of the things you're saddled with here is figuring out how to continue to make sure that the Republican Party, that suburban, a lot of upper middle class, college educated voters still see the importance of having Republican leadership. What are some of the things you're trying to focus on to make sure that message still comes home for those people?
Well, I think you just look at results, right? We have a county judge in Tim O'Hare who's been very successful in keeping our tax rates lower, reducing property taxes. We have a sheriff in Bill Wayburn who has been, tough on crime, runs a good operation. I think most Republicans are worried that if Democrats are successful in flipping Tarrant County, we're going to have Democrat leadership, Democrat sheriff. Bill Wayburn's opponent is a BLM supporting, defund the police type person. I mean, crime will go up in Tarrant County. We'll look a lot more like Dallas County, where they don't even prosecute lots of crimes because they don't even have the manpower to do it. So I think that most people, when they start thinking about the actual issues and how it's going to affect their daily lives, in an election, people really focus on the president, and all of that is super important, and the Senate, and all of that is super important, obviously, for the good of the country. But really what happens here at home, and the politicians elected to some of these, countywide positions have much more impact on our daily lives than national politics. And so I think when most people sort of start thinking about that, they're like, yeah, you're right. We don't want a Democrat sheriff. That would be really bad for us.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that you're on the front lines here. I think that even if people don't live in Tarrant County, they don't often realize the significance of certain battlefields, right? We don't know where the battle is sometimes. And it's important for kind of Texans to realize that these suburban counties that are growing in population, that are still red, are really important to fight hard for. If somebody is in Tarrant County, how do they get more engaged with what you're doing?
Yeah. So, our office is open every day. We have staff here every day. So go to tarrantgop.org. And you can sign up. We have a weekly newsletter that we put out. We're sending maybe a little bit more out than weekly right now, given that we're 4 weeks right now from Election Day. So we're busy there. But come in. We have signs. We have ways you can volunteer. You can go to our website and learn about, if you're in the northeast part of the county, there's a satellite office there. So lots of ways to be involved. We have people out knocking on doors every day, making phone calls every day. All the things you have to do to try to get our people to the polls so that we can defeat the Democrats.
Thanks for coming on, Bo.
My pleasure.
This is my first day back on the road up here in Fort Worth. And so I'm really grateful for my team being able to try to continue to accommodate a little bit of a crazy schedule. I promised my wife for 2 weeks I would not travel after the birth of our son, Leo Vincent. And so I've been home, still working probably more than I should, but being able to spend a lot of time with my kids and with Leo and my wife. And so that's been a real blessing to get a little bit of a break. I hope you all enjoyed last week's episode with Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. That's actually something that they were kind enough to help me record before Leo was born, just so I had a little bit of a break from having to find a place to sit down or go over to my office. So I got a little bit more time at home, back on the road. Look, guys, we're a month out from the election. There's a ton of stuff going on with the speaker's race. There's stuff going on with policy fights that are already starting. There's conversations being had. There's, of course, the elections and a lot happening there. So tons going on, and we hope to continue to bring you more information regarding what you can do, what you should do, and what you must do to keep Texas, Texas. May God bless you, and may God bless the great state of Texas.
Do you want to get your news from people who share your values? Texas Scorecard, real news for real Texans.